So I've got three people joining us. Devin, Jen, and Rachel are joining us on stage. Devin Reed is one of the top voices in B2B marketing today, known for building category-defining content engine in companies like Gong and Cleary. Does a lot of really, really amazing things. You'll hear more about that in a minute. Joining him is Jen. We got the founder of Demand Gen, a powerhouse B2B sales, and one of the most in-demand keynote speakers in the space. Now, you guys have done incredible for the first two folks on stage, and I want you to keep the energy going. Right after this video, give them a standing O as they join us on stage. Cue the lights. Let's bring our next speakers to stage.
So Devin and Jen are two people who have understood the impact of trust. They have helped grow brands that we all know now, like Gong, Cleary, Lavender, Challenger. But they did that not by posting as the company, but by posting as themselves, genuinely and consistently. And the result is what I just said. These are brands that we all know, but they also have grown massive audiences. And so for some of the people in the audience, you might be thinking, well, yeah, I would love to see my people posting, but I don't have a Jen on my team. Maybe not a Devin either, but we won't go there. But this isn't regulated to the Jens and the Devins of the world. In fact, the stats are backing this up more and more, and I will try and use both my hands to do this. But the stats say that 82% of people trust a company more when a human behind it is posting. And you see 5 times more engagement when a person posts versus the company page. So Devin, Jen, let's start there. Are those stats underhyped or overhyped?
Ladies first.
I think they're actually, I might be doing the same thing. I actually think they're underhyped. And the reason why is actually something I learned very early in my career. So I know they said I worked at Gong. Just for quick context, I was the head of content there from 20 to 220 million ARR. And while I was there, we built the page quite a bit. And I think like today, if you're probably scrolling LinkedIn, if you see one of these faces, you're probably more likely to stop and read, right, than like a logo. I think we can all probably agree to that. I'm seeing nods pretty quickly. And that was kind of obvious at the time, even a few years ago. But what really helped me understand this rule was that when we moved to email, we saw something really interesting as well. So we would send probably to about 100,000 people every week, 2 emails a week. And it was my name, Devin Reed, was the name you would see. And so someone in our kind of like marketing strategy test was like, hey, Gong's kind of like big now, and Devin, you're moderately cute, but like we should probably put Gong's logo, Gong's name instead on the emails. And so we did, and we ran an A/B test, and Devin Reed won every single time. My ego loves that. My ego is very happy. But that's not too surprising because the people on the list have been conditioned to see my name. And so then my podcast co-host, Sheena Badani, who, though Sheena's awesome, does not have much name notoriety, we put her name in there. She beat Gong every single time in opens, in clicks, and in conversions than Gong, which was a multi-billion-dollar brand. And what it taught me is that people trust strangers more than familiar brands. Like, sit on that for a second, and then you can look in the mirror and look in our marketing strategy and go, how often are we asking our employees to not post, or we're hiding these personalities in the name of kind of building the logo? So I think that's something that really stuck with me early on in my marketing career.
I promise this will not be a panel where Devin and I just agree with each other the whole time. That's like the bane of any panel, in my opinion. This is a place where I agree it's underhyped. 1, because so few leaders are doing it, and 2, so few leaders are doing it well. And so if I asked everybody in this room, who comes to mind when you think of a C-suite executive in tech who is consistently posting on LinkedIn, I don't assume we'd all have the same answers, but I bet there'd be overlap, right? Like, how many people would think of Dharmesh at HubSpot? How many people would think of Stevie Case, the CRO at Vanta? How many people would think of Kyle Lacey at Docebo, Kyle Coleman at ClickUp, Kyle Norton at Owner? God, if your name is Kyle, post on LinkedIn, you have a freaking advantage. And I think the thing that makes it so effective is they aren't walking billboards for their company. Like, I think the reason I started following Stevie in the beginning was because she was talking about, I think she was like the world's first professional female gamer. I'm like, that's so freaking cool. Like, I want to learn more about that. And in turn, I started learning about Vanta because when she would post about Vanta, well, I already really liked the way that she talked. So I would find that engaging. Am I the ICP for Vanta? No, I'm not. But if someone came to me and said, do you know anyone in that space? That would be the first company I thought of because of Stevie. And so I think there's this dichotomy of well, I either have to unload all of my childhood trauma in a LinkedIn post, or I have to be this complete corporate stiff. I don't think those are only two options. I think the people that I admire, many of the people I just listed, the thing that makes them so likable, the things that make me know their brands that they work for, is because they're multidimensional. Like Kyle Lacey talks about his social anxiety as a C-level executive. Kyle Norton, who I think many of us would look to, is one of the dudes that has figured out how to operationalize AI, constantly shows up and is yeah, this worked, but this is the thing that's broken now, and this is what I want to learn about it. So I think there is this hesitancy to show up on LinkedIn or any of the social platforms and be an imperfect version of yourself. I think, to me, that's the thing that makes it so effective. And so I think we all go through this pattern of well, what do I say? And what if people think I'm stupid? It's the internet. Somebody's going to think you're stupid. Just kind of ride with it, is my position on it.
Well, I want to lean into the AI of it all because it was mentioned, obviously. But we know now that LLMs are actually pulling from media content. They're pulling from public profiles. They're pulling from Reddit when they're going to answer questions. So when you think about your brand and how to essentially cut through the noise so that you can build that trust, obviously we're talking about using your people to do it, but literally, what should brands be doing to be able to be the one that people are found?
I'm going to build with Jen, and then we're going to argue in a little bit. And so I'll start with saying, when we think of why don't we trust a brand, I think a lot of times it's we think of oh, the principles or the values. And it's no, that's not it at all. If anyone's worked at a company, how hard is it to get anything published in marketing? That was not even the punchline, and people laughed right there. You have to get, you have your brainstorming session, then you have, all right, we're going to publish this, and it's okay, there's a couple layers of approval. Depending on your CEO and the mood of them that week, you might have to get through them as well. I'm advising a company that the board has to approve their SDR messaging. Yeah, more laughing, this is true. And so you think about it, it's why don't we trust the brands? Because it's been polished and stripped of all the personality, and so it's so safe, and therefore it's not relatable. And it's if you show up kind of perfect every time, that's not something that we're gonna want to open up to ourselves, right? Versus when you have people and they're posting, a lot of the times, Jen, for example, shares yeah, she's crushing it on stage, but also here's how I felt right before. And it's that emotional resonance that we all relate to, the anxiety, what are people gonna think? What do I think about myself? Those very human stories are the things that people gravitate towards. And I like AI, I'm not gonna say I love it, but I have yet to have it beat me at writing a good story. So if you're gonna over-rely on AI, there's a great place for research, there's a great place for revising, but if you can't tell a great story, it's gonna be really, really hard to compete this year and definitely next year.
Will Allred is a great example to your question about being seen in AI, of someone who I think is a great role model. So if you don't follow him on LinkedIn, follow him. He's always writing for utility. Right? So to me, Will Allred is the founder of Lavender AI. I associate Lavender AI with Will Allred. I first learned from Will Allred, and then I learned about Lavender, which I think is the whole purpose, right? But when he writes, it's always for utility for his audience. So he could write on LinkedIn about how we're the world's leading this, and we're the #1 AI that, and all of that, and we'd all be bored out of our minds. Instead, the way that I came across him was he was writing things that we do in cold emails that hurt our chances of reply. And so as a reader, as someone scrolling the feed, I'm wow, that is my job to be done. That's something I screw up. I want to keep learning from this person. I don't pretend to be an AI expert, but I do think if you are looking for tips and tricks around cold email, I guarantee Will and Lavender are probably some of the content that's going to be fed first. Because it's not writing just to get SEO placement, it's writing thinking of the end user in mind. And I think that's something every brand can do. If you look at the job to be done that your buyer has, there are things that you can teach them. There are ideas that you can share. And if you focus on the utility for the end user, instead of focusing on flapping our brand and our success and our G2 awards and everything else, I think that's how you draw people in, and that's how you create this captive audience. And candidly, I imagine that's how you show up in some of these searches.
And you just, as you were talking about this, I was thinking how do you know if you've done it? Right? How do you know if you're hitting bullseye here? You actually did it physically, which is the snapping point. You're that right there, that's me, that's my job. And the way also there's the tactical part, the solution. The other way to do it is focus on a problem, own the problem, but coin the phrase. So I was on Instagram, and there's this thing called dad guilt, which I had never heard of before, but I had felt it. And I was scrolling, and this guy's posting about this dad guilt, and I'm that's me. When I'm working, I feel like I should be with my kids. When I'm with my kids, I feel like I should be working. I didn't know thousands or millions of other people felt this way too. I thought it was just me. And so of course I followed this person and I bought his course. Course is the joke. There's more coming. But the point is like now I remembered that person and they own that part of my mind. We're like, oh, I trust you immediately because you're experiencing the problem and you're describing it in a way better than I could myself.
Didn't you do that with Clary?
We did, yeah, we coined the problem as well. Revenue leak was the phrase. I didn't make that one up. But yeah, that's the point is like, it's not enough just to own the problem, you want to own the language with it as well. Because then when people see the problem, they think revenue leak, they think Clary.
So we had an opportunity to kind of connect backstage and have a little fun. And you just brought up this idea of really audience and knowing your audience and the connection to trust. Jen, I'm going to tee you up for this one pretty explicitly. Give us your analogy here.
I'm a simple-minded person, all right? I'm not ashamed to admit it. It served me well in my career. So I like to think in terms of analogies. And so I think when we think about posting on LinkedIn, I think the first tendency, at least my first tendency, was like, I want people to think I'm smart. So when I posted on LinkedIn in the beginning, if you go back, God willing, it's just a bunch of like research and stats because you can't argue with research, right? So it was a really safe way to start posting. And I think that's what a lot of us tend to do is like, I just want to be looked at as the smartest person in the room. However, let's say you leave this lovely event and you find yourself in a dark alley. We're going there. You're in a dark alley and it's just you. And then all of a sudden, someone in like a very stiff corporate suit starts approaching you. And they're talking about how they're the world's leader of AI-powered revenue orchestration, whatever. My immediate reaction is gonna be like, what's up with this dude? Like, what's going on with him? And I'm gonna be like, kind of standoffish. However, if that same man, Devin can't wait to jump in. If that same man comes up wearing an Adopt, Don't Shop shirt, and he's holding a bunch of balloons that say, good job, Katie, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna approach that man, because I think that is how you get kidnapped, but if that guy starts talking to me, I'm probably gonna respond back, right? I'll be like, by the way, who's Katie? What'd she do? And I think that is the big difference, and that's when I started seeing traction, is when I stopped trying to be this perfect, buttoned up, stiff corporate persona, and just said, look, I'm an imperfect person, I screw up shit in sales all the time, learn from what I've got wrong so that you can like not make those same mistakes. That's when I started seeing traction, and that's when LinkedIn started feeling like less of a job. All right, Devin, let me have it.
I mean, first of all, the fact that you're just like promoting dark alleyways right now, I'm not super a fan of. I have daughters, so if I see a dude wearing a Katie shirt and balloons, I'm like, this is kind of what they taught me in school, right? Like, stay away from these weirdos. So, personally, I don't agree with that at all. But I will say, the difference is like, if you made me pick, you know, stay up in this alley, or a well-lit alley in my case, I'm leaning towards the guy in the suit, I'll be honest. Now, that's because I don't know the reference. I'm guessing there's a reference that you're, like, there's a show or something with this Katie.
No reference. I just think, like, he's nice. He's
Even
like,
weirder that this isn't a thing you watched earlier today. I kind of hate it. But my point is this. You're going to identify with that person, right? If you gave me those two options, no matter where we are, I did not identify with Katie shirt guy, but I identified more with the suit guy, so I'm going to go that route. You are on the other side, you know, obviously. And so the point being, like, if we want to think about it, the key of what you're really talking about is like, how relatable am I, or is this person to me? Because that's what attracts us, right? So like, I think a lot of times people think of sales as push. But marketing is really about attracting. And so when you think about like how are you magnetic in your marketing, it is by having the visual identity, but also the moral identity and sharing the interests that people will see in the dark alley, and they will come towards you and hopefully buy your balloons or whatever this guy's selling. I'm not sure.
he's not selling the balloons, okay? I'm simply saying he seems like he celebrates others. He might be a nice guy. Now I'm interested in who Katie is, all right? Somebody in this audience agrees with me. I know it. You probably have, 3 people. Great.
Dude, let's make sure. Okay, go on.
You gotta stay out of the dark alleys. But one of the things I wanna lean into is because obviously you two are very comfortable in your skin, you know what to say, you're confident, you're engaging, I'm done complimenting you now. But for people who are looking to say, I want to start creating content, I want to help my brand become more visible, like what are the things that you would tell them to do to get to that level of confidence and comfortability?
So I'll say, have them write about something they actually enjoy, not work, right? So if you love playing guitar, if you love animals, if you love whatever, get in the habit of writing about stuff that you're passionate about, and actually, like, tell the team, pick something you're passionate about, write about it, and then share it.
Because I think what most of us get in our heads about, I certainly did, is like, well, what if I'm rejected, right? What if one person likes it? That's a shitty feeling. I don't care who you are. That doesn't feel good to do that, but I think we have to learn to take pride in what we have to say, and it's easier to start by writing about something you're passionate about. Then the next thing I would say is write about someone on the team that did something that you thought was effective, smart, unique, great. Get in the habit of recognizing others. I think it's way easier to start on LinkedIn writing about something someone else did, a customer, a prospect, a team member, than it is writing about yourself. And I think that's where you can grow some comfort with the pattern of writing, getting on video, sharing. And the more comfortable you are with the act, the better you get at it. Nobody starts great. The act of doing it is what, in my opinion, makes you great at it.
I think too, like on the personal brand front, it's not just what you say or what you post, it's what you do. So when people see you see you commenting on the feed or being positive or sharing insights, like that's just as important of like how you show up and how people perceive you. So part of the business that I run, I help a lot of executives get started on LinkedIn. And I say most of them are either absent or like dabbling, where they post kind of like randomly. And so similar to that, which is like every CEO is basically like, yeah, Devin, we're gonna do this, it's gonna be awesome, I'm gonna dominate, and then I'm gonna get leads, right? Like leads is what they want. It's just smiles. It's like, yeah, everything we do is about leads for this. And so we try to build a strategy that is, yes, we need to show who you are and what your business does and the problem you solve, right? So which is a lot of topics can fall into that. Then they're like, well, I don't want to share any of my hobbies, my kids, my politics, any of these things because that's cringe. And you're not going to find success by copying what other people do, like, and it's not, people that maybe post pictures of babies or, cats, whatever, like, yeah, that will get a lot of engagement. But if that's going to help, not just help drive your business forward, but if that's not going to make you feel excited and you feel confident and comfortable, then you shouldn't do that. The space that I've kind of found is a good middle ground to what you're talking about is kind of like three approaches, in case you want to get tactical for a second. One is the problem. So what is the problem? Like, why did you start this company? Co-founders get real excited, the reason, right? They saw a problem in the market, there's a problem, they want to talk about that. Two is the solution. They love their product. Their product is better. They like it more than their kids in some cases. They really like their product. And so then we want to talk about our product. The third thing I like to say is like build in public. You've heard of build in public before? So that's a really cool way where people think it's like bragging. Or it's like, oh, look at us, or pounding your chest. It's actually one of the most covert ways you can advertise your company by sharing different milestones. Right, like I follow Varun from Clay. I'm sure we all probably seen him on the feed just as much as Clay. Like I bet you later today or tomorrow there'll probably be a picture of him on this stage. He's building his company in public by being here. So there's this nice middle ground where you can still share what you're doing and your excitement, and it's not like over personal or oversharing or trauma dumping.
So I think there's also a perception of my CEO or my founder or my co-founder, they have to ultimately become like creators. They have to be creating content and contributing on LinkedIn all the time. What about the rest of the team? Like, how do you decide who to empower to start being a public persona that ultimately helps grow the company?
I can just share what we've done. So I like startup land because it's like wild, wild west. I don't do well with rules. So my whole thing was like, if we had, let's call it 100 employees, my goal is to get as many of them posting damn near anything. And I say damn near because the three topics that we don't, religion, politics, and we'll pick a third.
Weather.
The weather, yeah. Do not let me catch you on LinkedIn talking about the sunshine. No, and so my whole point was like once a month or so, we would just have these lunch and learns. And I would just try to grab 15 minutes and basically just share with people, hey, here's the social strategy that we're doing at the company, here's what I'm personally doing, and then if you want, here's some kind of guidance and tips for you to get started. Now, say 100 people saw the lunch and learn. Let's say 40 were actually listening to anything I had to say and not just eating. If I got 5 people to post somewhat consistently, and you do that times 12, what is that, 60-ish people, one of those people per month actually do really well. You now have like 5, whatever, I don't do math, like 10 people who are posting very consistently, very good at it, and another maybe 40, 50 that are just doing it in general. Speaking of the 8th wonder of the world, compound interest, you do that year 2, year 3, year 4, you're now dominating the LinkedIn feed. You're dominating the mind share. And so when people are thinking about, the problem that you solve or, your category of software or services, they think of you. And it might be, Jen sharing about dogs that are for adoption. I don't care. That's great. You're still seeing us. You're still thinking about us. And I hear a lot about like vanity. This is a vanity metric. I think it's really weird that like when it comes to AI, we all want visibility. You gotta be visible, but when it comes to LinkedIn feed, that's a vanity metric. Like no, visibility is familiarity and that leads to recall. And that's when people say, you know what, hey, when we move in market, we wanna make a decision, I'm gonna go to them first.
Yeah, one thing that I think is also interesting, again, leading into the AI of it all, is AI does essentially crowdsource. And so people who have bigger followings, if those followings translate to higher engagement, you're going to get sorted more. But if you get higher engagement and don't have as big a following, you're going to get sorted more than the people who had the big following with low engagement. And so I find that to be encouraging for people. I mean, you two are sitting here and you have over 6 figures in terms of your following, which is extremely impressive. But for people who are trying to determine whether or not I'm investing in this and it's working, like how should they measure success?
I have a strong opinion, which might differ from Devin's on this, because I do think impressions are a bit of a vanity metric. Fight me backstage. I think, does anyone look at their kind of post metrics down? You see saves and shares, right? I have 105,000 followers on LinkedIn. I did a post the other day that had 23 likes. If anyone needs like some self-esteem, okay, like that's like 0.0005% of the people that could like it. So know that everybody is up against that. Nobody has it all figured out. But I think what I'm looking at now is I don't control impressions. There's literally nothing I can do unless I post a picture of me in a wedding dress or me with a dog that's gonna get an impression pop. And I can't do that all the time because you would never know what I do and what problem I solve. But what I'm looking for now is like the save and the share metric. That's an indicator that if someone is like, I'm gonna share this with another person, they're either mocking me, which I'm sure happens, or they're saying, yo, this was helpful, I want you to see this too. The save thing, I think I've ever once gone back to a save in my LinkedIn feed, but I'll just like do it thinking I will one day. But that tells me that it was helpful enough. And so I'm trying to like I think LinkedIn gets a little bit toxic in the sense that we're all trying to be the most popular kid in school. But in reality, if I get 20 people who share something or 25 people who save something, those are the posts that I tend to see impact inbound, right? It's after those posts that I see pops. I can do a dog post every Saturday because rescue is like a big passion of mine, and I can get 1,000 likes on those. I don't see a single damn inbound. But I will say the inbound that does come in, a lot of times it's people who are like, hey, by the way, I love that you do that. And so that's what I mean about being multidimensional. Like you always have to be, like, I don't think there's one way to post, but if you get super rigid into always telling and always teaching and always saying like, here's why we're right and everybody else is wrong. I met my husband on an online dating app. That's like the worst people on online dating apps. I think the same rule applies to LinkedIn, right? I don't want to talk to someone who's just talking about how awesome they are all day long.
Looking at me because you want me to rebuttal you, and I feel your gaze. It's reach and teach is the same thing. So the people, I would argue, the people that you get like I don't know 50,000 views on the dogs, which I like. Some of them never knew who you were. They see the dog, like this is really cool. I like her, and then later you teach them something that leads to a save, and that leads to the inbound. So I think you're accidentally agreeing with me, which I love to do dance with you and make you upset with me. But the point is, like, it really is both. And so, yeah, if you go into the CEO and like, look how many views we got, yeah, you're probably going to be dead in the water. But if you're looking at look how much visibility we have and how much inbound, it's because we have a strategy that does reach and teach. I think you're going to be in better shape. Look at that grin; she hates it.
So let's talk about the fear that comes with investing in employees. They leave. They go become founders themselves. How do you encourage a CEO or a marketing team to invest in people to create content when they can just take that and run?
I think this is like, first of all, not everybody who leaves is leaving on bad terms. And if your mind goes right there, that is a culture problem. That's not a LinkedIn problem. When I was at Challenger, for those of you who know the Challenger sale, I did this series. It was like winning the Challenger sale, and it was every Thursday a new podcast came out with a guest, and every month I did a webinar, and I ended up being like, people said like the face of Challenger, right? And I quit. Did Challenger go under because no, that's ridiculous thinking. No company, big or small, is single person dependent. They're just not. And so if you think about what happens if they leave, what you're neglecting is like, what is all the good I can gain while they're here? When I left Challenger, I had a ton of people who would reach out and be like, hey, so now that you're not there anymore, like, what's it really like? Is it good? Is it bad? Would you recommend it? And to this day, I advocate for it. But now there's not the assumption or this like concern around how honest is she being. So I think when you have a public face as one of your employees, unless you're treating them like shit, I don't know that it's a big problem if they leave, because they will probably continue to advocate for your business long after they're gone.
I think it was the quote somewhere. Someone said it like about like personal development, or like investing in people, like training them. And they're like, what if we train them and they leave? And someone's like, what if we don't train them and they stay? Right? And I think the same thing. It's like you're leaving so much. Like, I'm very blunt with these CEOs. I'm like, you're leaving so much money on the table, and basically by saying, we're not going to invest in them. We don't want people to post. I'm like, are you okay that like your number one, number two, number three competitors are probably doing the opposite? Like, they're going to the watering hole. Like, what do we open every single day? We open up our inbox, we open LinkedIn, maybe your CRM if you're in GTM, Play. They didn't pay me to say that, but I know you was right before me. Like, so where can I build, right? Where can I build? I can't build in CRM and I can't build in any of those GTM texts, but I can build in email and I can build in LinkedIn. So like, you should be there trying to win mindshare. And so I'm like, as long as you're okay seeing other, your competitors showing up online, and what really gets CEOs mad is when they hear like gong calls or call recordings, and they hear that like prospects are like referencing their competitors' content or referencing their CEO. That usually is a really good motivator. So if you're trying to get your executive or your CEO to let you post or do some of these programs, use that competitive edge. It gets them going. It works really well.
One other thing you just made me think of, I think I don't know if you would agree with this, the act of writing on LinkedIn helped me get better at my job, because what it does is if you put something out there, a belief system, assumption, something like that, and then you are corrected by other people, it doesn't mean they are right and you were wrong or vice versa, but it does make you highly aware of what potential objections are we likely to encounter. So I think the whole act of putting beliefs out there gives you a better read on the market, because the internet, people are not shy to share what they believe and think. So I think that's another point in the pro column of having your employees post. Yeah, sometimes they'll get it wrong, but that correction in public sticks way more than, oh, I said something on a call and it didn't go that well, it's probably a bigger issue. So I think that's helpful too.
Yeah, so in the couple minutes we have, I want to get a little bit more tactical, and you both have been generous in sharing some specific frameworks and ways of thinking. But if a company is bought in and they're like, I want to empower my people to post, what should they do like tomorrow to get this engine going?
It starts at the top, right? People are going to look at the CEO, the CMO, the C-suite, and go, is this behavior okay? So if the C-suite is doing it themselves, like even if it's once a week or every 2 weeks, like just doing it is a great step in the right direction. Second is just telling them like it's okay and we want to. And I've had folks, like not even like promoting myself, but like having either someone who has built programs or someone that they look up to who has an audience come in and just do like a workshop or something and just show, hey, this is an investment in your personal development. And that gets people excited. And like kind of what you're saying too is like people, even when they leave, it's like that's a cool place to work. Like when I was there, they hired someone to come in and they helped coach us. There's a Slack channel. Like there's so many things you can do from paid to free to get this behavior going. And so I think it's like you want to just normalize the behavior and encourage it. You can some people have a lot of like gamifying it. I never personally gamified it. I just never needed to, but like at some organizations, it probably would be helpful. So I think it's just like, it's kind of cliche, but like leading from the front and encouraging folks to do it and doing it yourself. The behavior will come, and also just be patient. Like people are nervous. Not everyone's a pro speaker, pro writer, doesn't want to necessarily put themselves out there right away. And also just big one, you cannot force anyone to do it. You cannot force it. Don't ghostwrite for them if they don't want to post it.
Devin won't promote himself, but I will. After this, I would look at a member of your team that you respect and see, do they follow Devin? I guarantee more often than not, the answer is yes, right? So if you show someone we are that serious about taking LinkedIn seriously, that we are willing to bring in someone like a Devin, that signal value means something, versus like, oh, what do we need to fill this lunch and learn? Like, everybody post on LinkedIn, here's 10 fun facts. So I think if you want people to take it seriously, you need to invest in making them comfortable and making them realize this is a true asset. This is a differentiator. It's a skill we value. The don't, I would say, because I'm not going to beat Devin's answer there, is do not do that shit where you like give everybody what to say in a post. I'm sure some of us have had to do that. It's horrible. It's never good stuff. And all that does is reinforce bad behavior, because that stuff only ever gets like one like. Like, you won an award? Cool. Your mom's probably proud. But other than that, your audience doesn't care. So just please don't go that path.
And I'm guilty of doing that. I've written those docs, sent those Slacks, and been like, please post. And it is annoying. And I don't really recommend it. I feel icky now, even like admitting that on stage in front of my peers. But I'll be honest, I've done it. It doesn't work as well.
Okay, last question. We are in a world full of content, a world full of noise. But the brands that will win trust will do what?
No, Devin's taking this answer because he's got a great answer, and like I said, I don't like a me too on a panel. So Devin, just wrap this up.
Now it's built up so much I have to deliver it. No, my point is like, and I get asked this question a lot, like how do we win? Like AI is taking over, it feels like our competitors are beating us. And the truth is that the companies that win are going to be the ones that tell stories that grab you by the collar and make you feel something that day. And it can be different things. I like more positive, emotions. I think we all kind of tend to like that. But like as you're going through you're looking at your content strategies, looking at the things you're publishing, like, are you bored reading it? Because you work there. So how do you think other people are going to do it? And so like as I'm revising content, creating, I'm like, if I feel excited, if I feel something, I know that that's going to translate on the screen. It's going to translate to other people. So emotional resonance, and like, don't be afraid to say things that kind of rub people the wrong way. You'd be surprised. Not everyone's going to be so polarized and hate you because you said something on stage they disagree with, or on LinkedIn they disagree with. People will come around, people will follow you, they'll engage with you, and eventually they will buy from you.
Wait, can I add one thing to
We are out of time.
No,
actually.
I'm adding it. One thing that I do, this like little writing technique I do, which again Devin might disagree with, is I speak in the language of we, not you, right? So I think the things that really piss me off on LinkedIn is someone's like, your GTM is broken, your outbound is broken, you suck. We hear we suck enough. I don't need to log into LinkedIn and hear 15 other people I've never met telling me it. So try flipping your writing and be more inclusive in the pain. I think when you can write from a position of empathy, like this sucks because of these external influences, not because you suck. I think that's another thing that I wish I saw more brands doing, is that stop trying to make people feel down. Like point somewhere else as the finger in a lane.
Well, hopefully they all made you feel something. Thank you both.
Thanks, yeah.
Awesome. Let's give them a hand, ladies and gentlemen. Show some love.